The wish fulfilled is not something that should make you anxious. When you use the law, you shouldn't use the law to try to just continuously consume things. You learn to stop desiring. So it's not something that you feel nervous about when you feel that wish fulfilled. If there was a genie that granted you what you wanted, you wouldn't feel anxious if he granted you what you wanted. And that's kind of how it is in the inside. You want to go within yourself and be your own genie. You don't want to wait upon a second God. And I'm going to stress this again, that there aren't two powers. When I say God, there's no two gods. I mean, there's no two causes. That's what I mean by God. Because there's so many gods in this world, and when you imagine, and if you think in your mind while you're imagining something, or when you're praying, as the Bible would say, and your mind goes to some other God outside of you, hoping that he's listening to you, hoping that he sees your prayer, or they see your prayer, whoever it is. A plethora of gods is looking at you. If you have that, you should remove that. You're going through some outside God to get what you want. You're hoping that he sees your imaginal act. It tells us that God doesn't judge after appearances. So the cause of life doesn't judge after appearances, but after the heart of man or the mind of man. So God sees what we do on the inside, not on the appearances. So if God sees what I do on the inside, and I'm imagining safety and whatever it is I want, and he sees that, then I trust that he saw it. I trust that he sees what I'm imagining, that he doesn't judge after, he doesn't see the external act. This is the shadow of God. You don't look at your shadow and ask it what it wants. It follows you. You don't follow it. So you learn to start living internally. You live in this inner world where you feel fulfilled. You walk feeling the wish fulfilled. And it's not something that should stress you out. It should never be something that completely stresses you out. Neville was asked a question that, is there a sign inside of you that allows you to feel that it's done? And Neville said the only sign that he has for him is relief. So relief, it's not something stressful. That's why he says, don't burst a blood vessel. So I just want this to be a reiteration of the same message, which is the wish fulfilled is not something stressful. It's a present tense feeling of being. It's something you are allowed to discard time. You're allowed to discard the senses and imagine. You don't have to judge after the appearances. And you can be like God and mimic this, or be like cause and mimic it. If you don't like the word God, you can always use cause. There's no two causes. And when you start to accept that, the peace that you get is so profound, and you can actually sustain it and rest in it. It's not too good to be true. There really isn't, in my opinion, from what I've seen, a different cause. I've tried to pinpoint it to other gods, but I can't seem to find that. As I said, these gods enter your mind and they tell you what to do. They tell you how to live inside yourself. Even a person of authority can come into your mind and you feel that you have to obey them. You don't. I'm not telling you to just disregard everybody in that sense and be rude, but you don't have to listen to anybody. You really don't. The inner man kind of doesn't. The inner man doesn't. You inside it kind of don't. You will be on your bed and you'll close your eyes. Next thing you know, you're somewhere else inside yourself. You don't really care about the appearances as much as you think you do, because many of the times people have panic attacks and fears from thoughts. So they don't really care. We don't really care about these senses as much as we think. We care more about how we live and dwell inside. And I'm telling you, as somebody who has dwelt in very desolate places inside myself, you are allowed to live in freedom inside. There are places in you where there's forgiveness. I'm going to give this idea. I was going to talk about this in the future, but I was meditating once and I stumbled upon this, and I didn't see it as clear as I would see you and me, but it was pretty clear. And I saw a wall. It was a giant, infinite wall, and there's millions and millions of mouths on this wall, and they're all talking and yapping and spitting and just a bunch of mouths. And I felt that I could choose any mouth I wanted on this wall. There was one that was silent, that was closed. There's one that was speaking just bigotry, and there's a bunch of mouths, and I could have chosen whichever one. And then I was taken to this other land, and again, it was just a bunch of eyes, and I was able to see what I wanted to see, how I wanted to perceive myself. I was able to choose the eyes I wanted to look with. And then there was ears, a wall of ears, and I was able to hear what I wanted to hear. Inside here, I was able to build myself. I was able to choose the things I wanted inside here. And if you start to living inside, you will see that you are the God of thought inside. That thoughts really don't rule you. It's only your belief that they do rule you, that they do. It's just like Vanilla Sky when in the scene of the restaurant where the man comes up to him and he asks him, or he tells him that this is his world, that all these people are here because of him. And he tells them to, says to shut the fuck up. And the next thing you know, they stop talking. And he goes, see that you can make them obey you and you can make them destroy you. And you're their God. And in a sense, when you start living inward, the senses become really a shadow. It becomes an effect of life instead of feeling ruled by it. Just like how you would if you were to awake inside a dream, you would start to imagine and change the dream. The dream becomes an effect. It becomes after, not before. But you might find yourself in a dream just the same way you'd find yourself in a dream. You don't know how you got there. You don't know really where you are, but you know that you are. And that's enough. To know that you are aware, to know that you're awake is enough to change the dream. And as Neville says, you can change the dream. And there's people who say, I work so hard at it. And he says, that's why you're failing. If you really believe that all things are possible to God, and God is your own wonderful human imagination, and that his ways are higher than your ways, then what are you interfering with that state for? Just assume it and let it be. And he goes, so many times people tell me that I work so hard at it. And he says, that's why you're failing. So it's not something that you have to strive for. Again, there's no earning inside. It's truly an acceptance that you can live there now. You have to see that the moment inside yourself, you start to see yourself in a new way, in a new light. You imagine yourself in a new way. You are allowed to stay there now. You don't have to revert back. There's no rule inside of you that tells you must stay in this state of mind. You have to refrain it because the senses show, because the people have said, you have to stay here. You don't. The senses, these 5 senses and these people's words, they come into your mind and they really start to dictate things. And you allow it. I'm telling you, don't allow it. There was this woman who really had she had financial problems. And she came up to Neville and she gave him a laundry list of all the problems she had. And he said he just looked at her and he just smiled and said, don't accept it. And I have that same attitude when it comes, because I've been talked to so terribly in my life for so long. And I've had so many words said to me that have entered my mind, and I've allowed them to just dictate where I live and what I should do inside myself. And I'm telling you, don't allow it. You don't need anyone's permission inside to change. You don't need my permission to stay there. Now, you might need a push, that's fine, but you don't need permission from anyone. The inner man does not need permission. The inner man's allowed to deny the senses if it wants. And that's really you. That's what I mean by the inner. The inner man's just awareness. You really don't, there's no rules inside. You don't even have to have thoughts if you don't want to. You don't have to think of anything. You don't have to be anything. You don't have to judge yourself. We're taught so much in this world to judge ourselves. The moment we look, I'm just going to be honest, a lot of the world thrives off of your insecurities. It thrives on putting insecurities in you and making you believe it. It thrives on making you believe you don't have things. And then it tells you that it has the thing you need. It tries to make you feel like you need things. And I'm telling you, don't do that. You don't have to believe that. You're allowed to feel deep down that you have it. That's the test. To believe I have something I don't. That's the test. Can I do that? And if you are successful, you will have it. But only I can really decide inside myself whether I have it or not. Am I trying to get it or do I have it? Am I still in desire? Then I should stop. And this is not something that is stressful. It's so relieving. As Neville said, it's a relief. So don't accept it. Don't allow it. Learn to break the habit of feeling that you need to be a desiring self inside and turn to being a fulfilled self inside, because that is available to you. As all things are inside. You don't have to earn anything. Remember what it says in the book of Isaiah, that come, eat, and drink without price. So I don't have to pay anything. It doesn't judge after my qualifications. Again, it doesn't look to the appearances. So don't disqualify yourself, and don't compare yourself and judge yourself to oblivion and make yourself feel that you are unqualified to accept something. God doesn't judge after the appearances. We look to the appearances and we say, well, it's impossible. But that's not what the cause does. The thing inside of us doesn't look to it at all. It's asking us to believe. It's asking for our faith. You can't please him without faith. So I have to let go of my reason and go to faith. But I don't have faith in a God outside of me, but to the one within me, the only one that there is. So the way I've learned to build my own faith is by believing there are not two gods, there aren't two causes, there's only one, and the cause is within. That allows you to, if I can tell you something to meditate upon for the rest of your life, it would be that there are not two gods. There's only one cause, and that's imagination. If I can just get you to assume that and dwell upon it and really play with it, you will let go of this God and you'll let go of those person's words. You'll drop that judgment. You will realize that this person really doesn't understand what they're saying. You will just learn to drop all the gods in the sky. You'll bring them down. You'll realize that none of them really have any power to do anything. You realize that everything we do is made from our own hands. And these are all just symbolic messages or symbols representing, like this world really is feeling clothed in symbolic form. And when you see it that way, you will stop worshiping it. We create these buildings to worship wood and stone. But really the true worship is having faith in the one being, which is within us. And when you really feel and firmly believe that there is only one cause, and it's imagination, when you really, really accept it, you will live your life upon it, and you won't go to anything else because you know you can't. And you allow yourself to give yourself the good now, because the one who gives me the bad is the same one who gives me the good. And this connects, and I'm going to end this with the connection between the book of Job and us. As Neville said, that the book of Job is not that Job was wrong or he was a wrong person. It's that he imagined the wrong things. And that's the same for you and I, that you're not wrong. You just imagine the wrong things. And the one who creates the wrong in me is the one who creates the right, or the one who creates the bad is the one who creates the good. And I trust that. And when you accept it, you live upon it, and you will create a beautiful life inside of you, and you will live from the inside out. So I'm glad it helped.